Why are gay men so apolitical? Hey, it's Prince of Queens, and after yesterday's video about feminists colonizing gay male spaces, I got a comment from an audience member who said that they wanted to know my thoughts about whether or not gay guys that we would call bears tend to be feminists. The commentator seemed to have experienced that gay bears tend not to really be feminists, which I have largely noticed to be the case as well. But I then started thinking that the greater point that I'd like to address in this video is that gay men of all varieties actually tend to be fairly apolitical. Still, while it is commonly the case, there's several factors to be mentioned as a preface. Does he live in a leftist coastal city? Does he live someplace like Atlanta or Dallas, Texas, with a sizable gay population but not necessarily the same type of far leftist mentality as somewhere like Portland, Oregon? Did he go to college? Does he have a good relationship with both of his parents? So many of these things can be individual factors regarding why gay men would or would not be political, but I would say the following in a brief way. Most gay guys don't really know much of anything substantial about politics because they live in leftist urban meccas where everybody thinks the same and they never bother to think about it. Still, I do think that there is more to it than that. I think that there are certain specific things that lead gay men to avoid thinking much about politics because gay men have the same aptitude and intelligence of any man, but seem to basically run into a dead end at a certain point so commonly when it comes to any real political involvement or literacy. Sure, a big factor of this is simply that it's hard to talk to other gay guys about politics because they are often too busy worrying about partying and hooking up. But which came first, the chicken or the egg? I've always wondered if gay guys are as intellectually vapid as they commonly are because they are simply intellectually vapid, or if they ended up that way because it seemed like a hassle to be an interesting person. Let's think about their options in terms of being political. Yes, there are numerous gay guys out there that we could safely describe as far leftist soy boys or whatever. You can find them in cities like Portland, Oregon, or Berkeley, California, and they aren't a whole lot different than the heterosexual male soy boys, really. In fact, I'd say that these types of gay guys, the soy boy types, generally have a lot more in common with straight male soy boys than they do with other gay guys. They often don't set off the gaydar a great deal, often don't go out to gay bars very much, and often have a major problem in the dating scene. Other guys don't really date them very much. It seems like they're always single or in long serial monogamous type relationships. So I've known a few guys like this and have even dated one for about a year, and he was a mess emotionally. He honestly just had major issues with basically the entire world, but you wouldn't necessarily know it until you actually spent a lot of time around him. Guys like this have a high likelihood to end up as some sort of Marxist feminists or whatever, usually due to the fact that they have issues with men, their families, and even other gay guys. They become straight-edged vegans to prove their own moral virtue and superiority to the gay guys that they feel are assimilationist. However, it's generally seemingly motivated by their own anger and resentment towards a world that they likely can't fit into well. I mean, let's be honest. You'd have to have major emotional problems to think that being a gay male communist is actually a good idea, knowing how communists tend to treat gay men. But this is not unheard of at all. In fact, it's so common that almost every gay male that attends university ends up meeting at least one or two other gay guys of the soy boy Marxist activist variety, and it's common enough to turn us off from being political entirely in many instances. See, the soy boy types hang out with the feminists and gay soy boy activist types always seem to be in charge of the campus queer groups, which every gay guy goes to once or twice, but usually realizes that they have no interest in being involved in the queer group because all they ever talk about is protest activism or performing in the vaginal monologues or whatever. Thus, most gay guys, myself included, figure out by the end of college that the gay guys who proudly tell you, "I'm an activist, I really care about politics," are generally completely unpleasant, far leftist wackos with social issues, and that nobody will date or hang out with you if you are anything like them or if you're even friends with a lot of them. Not that there's a lot of them, but there's a few, and you probably shouldn't hang out with them if you want to have a social life. Furthermore, gay guys tend to end up thinking that those types of guys are the only option when it comes to finding gay guys who, quote-unquote, care about politics. There are no clubs on college campuses for gay libertarians, or at least there weren't when I was in college 13 years ago. Gay guys have a fear of anything even remotely Republican or conservative. Anything that's right of, Elizabeth Warren is totally horrible in the eyes of most gay guys because, of course, this was hardwired into our collective unconscious due to the fact that Reagan didn't handle the AIDS crisis as well as the gay elders would have liked. So gay guys tend to not even consider arguments that are not from the far left. Sure, they don't necessarily like the far left and their arguments, but they generally won't consider arguments from the right even enough to figure out that maybe they are a centrist. And so they end up being rather apolitical and get annoyed when anybody wants to talk seriously about politics. If a politically literate gay guy tells a normal gay guy that he wants to talk about politics, the normal gay guy is probably thinking to himself, "Oh crap, I don't want to hear some vegan Marxist activist blather on about internalized misogyny because I am attracted to masculine men." Or they're thinking to themselves, "Uh-oh, is this guy a Milo Yiannopoulos fan? Because if so, I'm supposed to not be talking to him." There's seemingly no in-between, which might just be one of the big reasons why there's such problems with drug and alcohol abuse and loneliness in the gay demographic. Because politics and talking about politics, being aware of politics, understanding what shapes the landscape of the world, knowing about all that stuff is actually really fulfilling and important to talk about if you're having the good conversations. That's how I feel, and truthfully, I can only speak for myself. So for me, there was more than one period in my life where I was basically completely averse to talking about politics in any capacity. I want to say that I was blissfully ignorant, but it wasn't very blissful. Actually, looking back on those periods, it was like I was walking through the world with blinders on regarding how I saw things relating to the arts and entertainment world, which is what I thought I cared about. I kept running into moments in my life where something completely unfair and seemingly random would happen, which I can now attribute to political happenings or sociopolitical issues, like the fact that I was hanging out with feminists who hated men, and I didn't quite realize that feminists really do hate men. But I never knew these things were going to happen ahead of time because I was so dead set on being politically ambivalent. Do you think that you can have a long-lasting career in entertainment and not understand politics? Do you think that you can be involved in the arts or fashion or whatever? Like, do you think that you can be an actor, a writer, a director, and not understand politics? Well, I think that you'll find otherwise at some point. And yet here we are. There's all these gay men who very often want to have both careers in the arts and yet avoid talking about politics. It's kind of sad. I think we can do better. I think we can learn more about politics and discuss them like normal people. That's all for this video.